Welcome, dear traveler. You've found your way back to Sleepy Doze, where history unfolds gently, like twilight across quiet sand. Here, we walk softly through time, uncovering the forgotten rhythms of daily life from cultures shaped not by kings and wars, but by firelight, seasons, and tradition. Tonight, we begin a slow and respectful journey into the world of the Himba, an indigenous people of northern Namibia. Known for their red ochre skin and ancient customs, the Himba have lived in harmony with the earth for centuries. But one of their practices often surprises outsiders, a quiet tradition of hospitality in which wives may be offered to visiting men. We'll speak of it gently, without judgment or drama. Instead, we will sit beside the smoky fire and listen to what the land, the people, and time itself whisper. If this kind of storytelling brings you peace, consider liking this video, subscribing to Sleepy Doze, and sharing it with someone who might enjoy a soft end to their day. Now, make yourself comfortable. Maybe a blanket? A warm drink? Let's begin. Imagine a place where the wind always carries sand. Fine, warm grains that drift through your fingers like memory. In northern Namibia, the sun rises slowly over ochre-colored dunes, casting a soft amber light across thorny acacia trees. The Himba people have lived here for generations. Their lives are not rushed. Time moves like smoke. Their homesteads are small circles of huts made from a mix of cow dung, mud, and grass. The walls are cool to the touch in the morning. Inside, the air smells of wood smoke and earth. Children rise early, giggling softly, as goats shuffle outside. In this land, movement is minimal. The desert teaches patience. To run is to waste energy. To wait is to survive. Water is scarce, and the sky, often cloudless, stretches out in pale blue stillness. The Himba do not live by the clock. They live by the sun's position, the lowing of cattle, and the sacred fire's smoke. And in this still world, hospitality is sacred. The Himba are a semi-nomadic people descended from the ancient Herero. Isolated by the harshness of their landscape, they have preserved many of their oldest traditions, living in a way that might seem like stepping into a different century. Men tend to cattle, guiding them across parched land in search of hidden waterholes. Women stay close to the homestead, raising children and preparing daily meals from sour milk, maize, and herbs. Their lifestyle is deeply communal. Everything from food to responsibilities is shared. But it's not only the tasks that are communal, it's the trust. In Himba culture, a man might welcome a traveler, a friend, or even a stranger into his home, and share everything, including his wife's company for the night. This is not an act of betrayal or impulse. It's a gesture of respect, of generosity, of confidence that one's place in the social order is secure. In the West, we think of privacy and exclusivity as symbols of love and loyalty. But in Himba life, openness affirms trust. The visitor is not seen as a threat, but as a temporary extension of the family. You might first notice the Himba by their skin, a glowing reddish tone. But this isn't their natural pigment. It's a sacred blend of butterfat and red ochre, applied each morning. The mixture, called ochre, protects the skin from sun, insect bites, and dryness. But it's more than practical, it's spiritual. Women apply the paste slowly, rhythmically, almost ceremonially. Their hair is also styled with ochre, into long braids or thick coils, each design signaling marital status or age. These daily acts are meditative and meaningful. They're not rushed in front of mirrors, but performed with quiet focus, like prayer. In a world where change is constant, this ritual grounds them. Red ochre connects the women to the ancestors, to the land, to each other. And so, the practice of adorning one's body becomes as sacred as keeping the ancestral fire burning. It is a living thread that runs through generations. To the Himba, cattle are more than animals. They are status, wealth, history, and life itself. Children are named after cattle. Disputes are settled through cattle exchange. And when a Himba dies, their cattle continue their memory through the herd. Every morning, Before any tasks begin, the family elder rekindles the ancestral fire. Smoke rises slowly into the sky, curling in soft spirals. This fire connects the living with the dead, carrying prayers to ancestors and blessings back down. A man may speak aloud to the flames, requesting guidance, asking for rain, or simply giving thanks. It is a moment of quiet dialogue with time itself. Even the practice of sharing a wife with a guest is connected to these deeper spiritual beliefs. It is an offering of not only body, but of trust, community, and cosmic hospitality. Now, we approach gently the tradition known as okujepisa omukazendu, offering a wife to a guest. It is not universal among the Himba, nor is it demanded. It is offered, sometimes quietly, sometimes formally, as a sign of deep hospitality. When a trusted male visitor arrives, the husband might sleep outside or in another hut, while the guest shares the wife's space. There are no harsh words, no jealousy, because to offer your wife is to offer your home, your food, your peace. In Himba understanding, love is not weakened by this gesture, it is strengthened. The wife is not forced, her acceptance is essential. And there is dignity in the exchange, both parties understanding the boundaries, the purpose, and the tradition. It's difficult for outsiders to grasp this without cultural context. But in a world where survival depends on unity, not individualism, such customs carry different meaning. In the end, this practice is not about lust, it's about belonging. In our last chapter, we quietly stepped into the rhythms of the Himba people, the early morning ochre, the warmth of the sacred fire, the unhurried days shaped by trust and tradition. Tonight, we turn our gaze outward, beyond the red-painted skin and the hearth fires, and into the land that gives the Himba their form, their flow, their very breath. This is a land that speaks slowly, a land of shifting sands, whispering trees, and ancient earth. Here in the northwest of Namibia, near the border with Angola, the Himba live not against the land, but with it. Let's take a slow walk through this landscape. Let's feel the silence beneath our feet. The desert doesn't shout. It murmurs. The terrain of Himba country is not the towering dunes of a postcard, but a softer, older dryness. Scattered shrubs, stretches of ochre-colored earth, cracked by heat, but patterned like art. Himba homesteads are often separated by long distances, sometimes miles apart, because the land cannot feed many at once. The air here is hot, but not always harsh. It has a stillness, especially in early morning or after sundown, that hushes every movement. Animals tread carefully. So do people. Everything in Himba life, how they herd cattle, where they build huts, how often they move, is shaped by how the land breathes. The earth teaches patience. The seasons bring their rhythm. And the Himba, over generations, have learned not to change the land, but to move in harmony with it. In the Himba world, homes are not built to last forever. They are shaped from the same earth they stand on, red clay mixed with dung and straw. Women are the builders. With slow, careful gestures, they press the warm mixture into shape, smoothing the walls with open palms. These rounded huts, onganda, hold everything: sleep, food, shelter, family memories. Inside, there are no sharp angles, just curved walls, soft-smelling smoke, animal skins for sleeping, and often a small platform for storing sacred herbs or stones. At the center of the homestead is a cattle corral, fenced with branches. The fire burns nearby, not only for cooking, but for connecting with ancestors. Children learn to tend the flames as early as they can walk. There's no separation between the house and the land. The house is the land, gently reshaped for shelter. Water, in Himba life, is sacred. Every drop is measured by effort. There are no taps here. Often, water must be carried for miles from a distant borehole or stream. Women wake early, balancing wide clay pots or yellow containers on their heads, walking in rhythm with one another. The journey might take hours. There is no rush. They talk softly, sometimes in silence. Upon returning, the water is carefully rationed. A little for drinking, a little for cooking. Rarely, if ever, for bathing. Instead of water, ochre, the red ochre mixture, is applied daily to cleanse, moisturize, and perfume the body. Even cattle are led to water slowly, with great care. The bond between people and their animals includes sharing this most limited of resources. There is a quiet reverence in every act of fetching water. It reminds the Himba and us how much life depends on what we often take for granted. Not every tree is just a tree. Some are witnesses. In Himba tradition, certain trees are planted or chosen to stand beside the ancestral fire. These are sacred. They are not to be cut or damaged. Children are taught to greet them with quiet respect. These trees, often mopane or fig, mark the center of a family's spiritual world. Near them, the okuruo, the ancestral fire, burns. Here, the spirits of the ancestors are believed to dwell. Important ceremonies take place beneath these branches. When someone is born, when they die, when cattle are named. Even disputes are settled in the tree's shade, with elders seated on worn stones. Each homestead becomes a living memory, rooted in both earth and ancestry. There is no need for written stories when the trees remember. Colors are language. To the Himba, the reddish tone of ochre symbolizes life, fertility, and the earth's power. Ash from the sacred fire symbolizes connection to ancestors. The dry dust beneath their feet is not just ground. It is the body of their ancestors, returned to the soil. Each morning, women rub ochre onto their skin not only to protect themselves, but to affirm their place in this balance, earth on body, body on earth. Even hairstyles carry meaning, braids wrapped in red clay that indicate a girl's age, her status, her family line. The Himba do not wear color for decoration. They wear it as identity, as history, as communication. There is no written alphabet, but the body, the hut, the land, they all speak. It's a quiet language, but it's there, for those who listen. In our last chapter, we wandered gently through the Himba landscape, its ochre hills, its smoke-colored trees, its sacred silence. Now, we sit among the people. And among the Himba, nothing is more central, more symbolic, more beloved than cattle. To speak of Himba life without cattle is to speak of music without rhythm. It is through cattle that families are bound, wealth is held, and time itself is marked. But beyond the herds, another quiet power shapes Himba society: kinship. Tonight, let us walk among the animals. Let us listen to the murmurs of family, of unspoken lineage, of community carried not through paper, but through memory, ritual, and respect. To a Himba child, the first lullaby may come not from a mother's voice, but from the soft sound of cows breathing outside the hut. Cattle are not simply livestock. They are woven into every part of Himba identity. Each family keeps a personal herd, and each animal is known by name, temperament, and ancestry. Children grow up learning how to milk, how to herd, how to heal. Boys take their first steps in the dust of the kraal. Cattle serve many roles. They are traded in marriage agreements, offered in apology, given as gifts during funerals. Their dung is used to build homes. Their presence is considered spiritual, connecting the family to both past and future. Even dreams of cattle are considered important. They might carry messages from ancestors or warn of trouble. Cattle are not just possessions. They are relationships. And where they go, the Himba follow. Himba society flows like a river with two banks. On one side, patrilineal inheritance, where land, cattle, and authority pass through the father's line. On the other, matrilineal kinship, where spiritual identity and emotional belonging pass through the mother. This creates a unique dual system. A child is raised by both parents, but will often inherit property and rights through their mother's brother, the maternal uncle. This balance ensures that power doesn't concentrate, that relationships are spread across multiple households and generations. It also encourages humility. No one can claim absolute control because lineage flows in more than one direction. In practical life, this means that a young man might herd his father's cattle, but look to his mother's brother for wisdom, marriage advice, and final decisions. It is a quiet equilibrium. 1 foot in the father's fire, 1 foot in the mother's clan. In the Himba world, no one is truly alone. The clan, called Eanda, is not a gathering of names, but a living body. Everyone belongs to one. It may stretch across many villages, even borders. Marriage is arranged to maintain balance. One must marry outside their Eanda. This creates networks, not just unions. A marriage is not only about 2 individuals, but about linking 2 extended families. Gifts are exchanged, stories shared, cattle passed between lineages. Often, cousins live together. Grandparents raise children. A wife might stay connected to her original clan, visiting during certain times of the year or after childbirth. And if someone becomes sick or poor or widowed, they are not forgotten. The clan absorbs the pain. They step in, without drama or fuss. This way of life isn't loud. It's woven, like a soft blanket passed between hands. In our first chapter, we spoke quietly of okujepisa omukazendu, the offering of a wife to a guest. Now, with a clearer picture of kin and clan, we can understand why this gesture is not scandal, but solidarity. When a man welcomes a visitor and offers his wife's company, he is expressing complete trust in the guest's honor and in his wife's autonomy. But even deeper, he is affirming the strength of his own position within his clan. A man who fears loss does not give. A man rooted in family, cattle, and fire can afford to share. Not just food or shelter, but closeness. The guest is temporary. The clan is eternal. By offering his wife's company, the man isn't weakening his marriage. He's strengthening the invisible threads between people. It is not about desire. It is about dignity. In modern life, currency is often abstract. But among the Himba, wealth remains visible, warm-blooded, and walking on 4 legs. Cattle are used to pay bride wealth, to seal peace after disputes, and to reward bravery or generosity. The more cattle a man owns, the more respected he is. But hoarding is frowned upon. Wealth must circulate, like water in a well. A young man might receive 2 cows at the birth of his child. An elder may gift a calf to a neighbor in hardship. Each act ties people closer, not with paper, but with flesh, with milk, with memory. Even when cattle are traded or slaughtered, they are not forgotten. Their names are remembered, their lineage tracked, their stories told. This is not economics, it's honor. In the cool hush before dawn, when stars still linger and the cattle have not yet stirred, a flame flickers to life. It is not just warmth, not just light, but a whisper from another time. Among the Himba, the ancestral fire is not merely symbolic. It is a bridge, a heartbeat, a dialogue. This chapter, dear listener, invites us to sit by the sacred fire, to watch its embers, to listen, not for words, but for wisdom passed down through smoke. At the center of every Himba homestead, slightly offset from the cattle enclosure, rests a sacred hearth known as the ochre, the ancestral fire. It is tended daily by the head of the family, often an elder male, though women and children may assist. The fire is relit each morning, using ashes from the day before. This is crucial. It must never die completely. To allow it to go cold is to break the line of connection with the ancestors. When a Himba elder kneels before the ochre, he does not pray in the way many of us might expect. He speaks softly, sometimes aloud, sometimes silently, to those who came before. Fathers, mothers, grandparents, tribal founders. The flame is a messenger. Smoke carries thoughts upward. Heat carries intentions. The ancestral fire is not only for grief or ceremony, it is for everything. New births, cattle disputes, marriages, sickness, drought. All of life is processed through this flickering dialogue. In Himba belief, the dead are not gone. They simply live differently. They walk beside the living, not as ghosts or shadows, but as quiet presences, watching, advising, listening. Dreams are one of the main ways ancestors speak. If a child dreams of rain, the elders take note. If a woman sees her grandfather in sleep, she may be asked to describe his face, his mood, his words. These aren't signs to be interpreted with urgency or fear. They're more like subtle nudges, reminders that the past is not buried. It breathes. The fire, when kept, makes these conversations more open. It becomes easier to hear what the dead are saying when the smoke is rising. This relationship with ancestors is not worship. It's respectful coexistence. Like sitting in a quiet room with your grandmother knitting in the corner. She may say nothing, but her presence shapes the room. Every Himba homestead has a headman, usually the eldest male or the wisest elder. But his job is not command, it is connection. He tends the fire, he guards the stories. He makes decisions not alone, but in quiet consultation, with family, with ancestors, and with memory. The headman does not shout. He listens to the wind, to the cattle, to the dreams others bring him. His seat near the fire is symbolic. He faces east, where the sun rises. When prayers are said, they are said through him. He becomes a bridge between the living and the dead. But unlike a priest, the headman is part of everyday life. He milks the cows, he repairs fences, he laughs with children, he carries water when needed. It's a leadership of presence, not power. And in his silence, others learn to listen. The act of relighting the fire each morning is one of the Himba's most important rituals. It's not rushed, it's not loud, it's quiet and deliberate, almost sacred in its repetition. Ashes are gathered, twigs are arranged, dry dung, still warm from the night before, is gently blown upon. Then, when the first spark glows orange, a breath is given, and smoke begins to rise. Children watch. Sometimes they help. It is one of the first lessons they learn. To start the day not with noise, but with continuity. The fire burned for their grandparents. It will burn for them. And someday, their grandchildren will light it too. There is comfort in this cycle, in the knowledge that even in a harsh world, some things can be carried forward, flame by flame, breath by breath. With all we've seen, the fire, the kinship, the dreams, we begin to understand why Himba hospitality feels so different from modern norms. In a world where relationships stretch beyond death, where trust is reinforced each morning through ritual, where the home is open not only to people but to spirits, there is little room for possessiveness. Even the gesture of offering a wife to a guest becomes less about desire and more about continuity. When a visitor arrives, he steps not into one man's house, but into a living spiritual system. To share food, rest, or even intimacy is to honor that system. To say, "You are safe here. You are part of the circle for this moment." The fire watches, the ancestors listen, and life continues, like smoke through an open sky. In the sweeping red sands of Namibia, the heart of the homestead often beats strongest in the hands of its women. It is they who paint the earth onto their bodies, tend the hearth, nurture the young, and guide traditions forward. Their power is quiet yet profound, woven into every task, every ritual, every glance exchanged beneath a low-hanging acacia. Tonight, we step closer to understand how Himba women carry both grace and strength, how they shape family, culture, and community with gentle determination. Before dawn, while the desert is still draped in violet shadow, a Himba woman rises. She smooths her ochre-tinted skin, plats her hair with intricate care, and lights the embers beside the hearth. Her morning is a choreography of tasks: fetching water, stirring sour milk to a gentle boil, preparing thick porridge for her children. She checks the cattle enclosure, calling each calf by name in a soft tone. She gathers firewood in neat bundles, balancing them gracefully on her hip. As the sun climbs, she might repair a section of mud wall or tend the small vegetable garden where herbs grow against the homestead's edge. Every movement is intentional. There is no hurry in her steps, only purpose. Each action, from grinding grain to weaving baskets, carries history, taught by mothers, grandmothers, and the dusty footprints of ancestors. From the first years of childhood, Himba girls learn that adornment is more than decoration, it is identity. With careful fingers, they mix butterfat and ochre into ojize, smoothing it over skin like a living garment. Each morning, the paste is applied in deliberate strokes, a ritual that links them to their mothers and the land's red heart. Their hair, too, is an art form. Braids are wrapped in ochre, styled to signal age, marital status, or clan affiliation. The weight of clay-wrapped braids is a gentle reminder of lineage, of belonging to something older than themselves. Necklaces of iron and shell, leather anklets, and copper bracelets are not mere trinkets. They carry meaning, protection from harm, blessings for fertility, tokens of hospitality. The soft chime of jewelry on skin resonates like a whispered poem, speaking of endurance, creativity, and cultural pride. In each ornament, we hear the echo of generations, women gathering pigments, shaping clay, weaving strands, teaching young hands these slow, precise gestures. Here, adornment is ceremony. It is power made manifest in color and form. Motherhood among the Himba is a communal embrace. A woman's own mother, aunts and sisters gather round when a child is born, humming lullabies in Himba, guiding the new mother through rituals of acceptance. Each birth is celebrated by naming ceremonies beneath the sacred tree and by offerings of milk and herbs to the ancestral fire. As children grow, the mother's lap becomes their first school. She teaches them to recognize animal tracks, to weave baskets from wild grasses, to draw water from rocky streams. She shows them which plants soothe fever and which roots can flavor porridge. At midday, children nap in the shade of woven mats while their mothers work, churning milk into thick butter, mending goatskin cloaks, or mixing mud and straw for the day's wool repairs. Laughter drifts between tasks, small voices reciting rhymes or asking endless questions about the world beyond their hut. Through her hands, the homestead thrives. Through her patient lessons, the next generation learns the art of living lightly on parched earth. In this cycle of care and creation, a woman's influence stretches far beyond her own days. In a world that often measures women by fleeting images, Himba women stand as living canvases of enduring culture. Their identity is shaped by the ochre glow that envelops them each dawn, by the braided stories in their hair, by the quiet resilience in their gestures. They speak a language rich with metaphor, comparing the human heart to desert flowers that bloom only when tended with care. They hold counsel in whispered tones under moonlight, sharing wisdom on marriage, healing, and harmony. When a young woman comes of age, she adds new braids, new beads, new layers of paste. Each change marks growth, from girl to mother, from daughter to elder in training. These transitions are guided by older women, mentors who pass on songs, recipes, and prayers reserved for moonlit circles. Through centuries of drought, colonial intrusion, and modern challenges, the women have preserved their rituals. They teach each other how to live within limits, embracing scarcity as creativity, loneliness as solidarity. In their laughter and their tears, we glimpse the power of cultural pride, a gem bright enough to outshine any hardship. While men tend cattle and speak with outsiders, it is often the women who silently orchestrate the homestead's rhythm. They decide when guests may share food, how the hearth is arranged, when the ceremonial fire must be fed. If a traveler arrives, it is a woman who gathers fresh milk, shapes the first bowl of porridge, offers a place by the fire. She observes the guest's needs, thirst, chill, fatigue, and responds without fanfare. Through such acts, she cements the family's reputation for generosity. In the practice of wife-sharing, her voice matters most. Her consent transforms a husband's offer into a mutual ceremony of trust. She sets the tone, welcoming or reserved, depending on custom and circumstance. Her boundaries are honored, for to disregard her would break the sacred contract between families and ancestors. This silent leadership flows through all her daily choices. When to begin the day's work, when to pause for prayer, when to close the homestead against a night wind. In every decision, she balances tradition with care, hospitality with discretion, strength with softness. And so, the desert's women stand as quiet pillars, holding up home, faith, and culture with gentle resolve. There is a saying among desert people: the one who shares water shares life. In the dry lands of northern Namibia, where each drop is precious and the nights fall cool and quiet, hospitality is not a performance. It is a way of being. Among the Himba, to receive a guest is to expand the family, if only for a night. The gates of the homestead open with little ceremony, but great warmth. A guest is not questioned. A guest is not doubted. A guest is honored. Tonight we find ourselves seated beside the sacred fire once more, not as watchers, but as welcomed strangers. Let us listen. When a traveler approaches a Himba homestead, there is no bell, no knock, no loud greeting. The air itself seems to pause in recognition. The visitor halts a respectful distance from the entrance. He waits. No words are exchanged at first. A member of the family, usually a woman or elder, steps forward. She looks at the traveler, not with suspicion, but with quiet attention. She may offer water first, or a gesture of acknowledgement, a hand over the heart. The guest is then led in. He is offered a seat near the outer hearth, not the sacred fire, which remains the domain of family. But his proximity means something. He is being brought into the fold, layer by layer. There are no direct questions, no need to justify his presence. It is assumed that if one walks the desert to your gate, they must have a reason. That reason is enough. Once inside, the visitor is fed, not with a feast, but with care. Sour milk, thick porridge, sometimes dried meat if cattle have recently been butchered. The food is placed before the guest, but not handed over. He takes what he needs, eats slowly, and always leaves a small portion, out of respect, not waste. He is shown where to sit, where to rest. Often, a sleeping mat is laid just outside the family hut, near the outer fence. A gourd of water is placed within reach. At night, someone tends a separate fire for the guest. Though the sacred fire is reserved for family and ancestors, the act of kindling flame for a visitor holds its own sacred weight. There is comfort in this quiet generosity. No need for endless chatter. The Himba offer presence rather than performance. A look, a place to rest, a sense that for this night, you belong. Among the Himba, there exists a practice that often puzzles outsiders, okujepisa or mukazendu, the offering of a wife's company to a guest. But to understand this gesture, one must see it not through the lens of modern romanticism, but through the ancient lens of trust and equilibrium. When a man offers his wife to a guest, it is not a command. It is a deeply symbolic gesture that says, "You are no stranger here. My home, my family, even my most intimate spaces are open to you." The woman, always, has the final say. Her voice is not implied, it is central. If she declines, the gesture is honored with no shame or offense. This is not about conquest or seduction. It is about humility and harmony. In this act, the guest becomes part of the lineage, however briefly. And the wife, far from being silenced, becomes a conduit, a bridge of hospitality, human contact, and shared experience. Such gestures are rare, reserved for moments of deep respect. But when offered, they are understood as the highest form of welcome. When a guest sleeps at the edge of the homestead, they are not left alone. Throughout the night, members of the family rise quietly to check on the cattle, the fire, and, without announcing it, the guest. A water pot is refilled if needed. A goat too close to the fence is nudged back into place. An extra blanket might be laid if the desert air turns cold. These acts are not grand. They are barely noticed by the guest, but they are felt. Even the family dogs, usually silent, remain near. Their low growls or soft sighs in the dark offer both protection and comfort. The fire is stoked gently, not to wake the guest, but to let them know they are still remembered through the night. This sense of guarded peace allows a guest to sleep deeply, even on foreign ground. Because here, among strangers, one feels strangely safe. When morning comes, the departure is as gentle as the arrival. There are no lengthy goodbyes, no pressure to explain one's next destination. The host might simply nod. The wife may offer a final bowl of sour milk. A child might wave briefly before returning to fetch firewood. Gifts are rarely exchanged. There is no tally kept. But if the guest was respectful, their presence will be remembered and recounted. Long after they've gone, the host may sit at the sacred fire and mention their name. Not to boast, but to thank the ancestors for bringing someone worthy into their circle, if only for a night. And the guest, wherever they go next, will carry the quiet memory of a welcome that asked nothing, gave everything, and asked only for dignity in return. In many parts of the world, marriage is marked by documents, rings, and vows spoken beneath formal roofs. Among the Himba, it is something different. Not less serious, only less rigid. Not unbound, only more woven into the fabric of daily life. Tonight, we explore the ways Himba people create bonds without borders, how fidelity exists alongside openness, how love and duty share space with choice and freedom, and how the rhythm of Himba marriage echoes the larger rhythm of desert life, flexible, enduring, and quietly strong. And among the Himba, marriage is rarely a private affair. When two people decide to marry, their families begin a dialogue. It can take weeks, sometimes months. Discussions are held under trees, beside the cattle kraal, and near the ancestral fire. Elders speak first, then uncles, aunts, cousins. There is laughter, storytelling, and long pauses. Marriage is not seen as the joining of two hearts, but as the merging of two lineages. Cattle may be exchanged as bride wealth, but more importantly, honor is exchanged. One family promises to support, protect, and uplift the new wife. The other promises to raise children in the ways of both clans. The bride does not leave her family behind. She carries them with her, in the necklaces around her throat, in the red ochre on her skin, and in the songs she sings to her children. A Himba marriage, then, is not a sudden event. It is a slow braid, woven strand by strand between two homes, two herds, two fires. In Himba culture, love is not loudly declared. It is not carved in initials, nor written in long letters. Instead, it is lived, softly, and with consistency. A husband rises before dawn to tend the cattle, knowing his labor feeds his wife and children. A wife grinds maize with rhythmic grace, knowing the meal will nourish her family. There is no need for constant verbal affirmation. Each gesture is a kind of love poem, spoken with the body, not the tongue. Couples share responsibilities with calm familiarity. Disagreements are expected, but often handled through subtle changes in behavior rather than argument. A man might take a longer walk. A woman might sit silently by the fire. Eventually, they return to the rhythm they know best, working together, side by side. Romantic love does exist, of course. There are private jokes, shared glances, favorite songs. But Himba marriages, at their root, are built less on emotional declarations and more on mutual effort and enduring respect. One of the most often misunderstood practices in Himba culture is the custom of okujapisa or mukazendu, the offering of a wife to a male guest. But within the context of marriage, this practice is never careless nor forced. It is shaped by mutual understanding, deep trust, and clear communication. When a husband offers his wife's company to a visitor, it is a mark of confidence, not indifference. It signals that their marriage is stable enough and open-hearted enough to extend kindness even in intimate forms. The wife's consent is never assumed. If she chooses not to participate, the offer is quietly withdrawn without judgment. No pressure is applied. The power of refusal is understood to be as important as the offer itself. In this way, fidelity is not measured in exclusivity, but in intention and trust. The couple remains devoted, not because they close every door, but because they walk through those doors together, eyes open, hands linked in quiet agreement. In many societies, marriage can become a cage. But among the Himba, it is more like a tether, strong enough to hold, loose enough to allow movement. Women may return to their family homesteads after marriage if they are unhappy. They may request divorce. They may keep close ties to their maternal clan throughout their marriage, visiting regularly, especially after childbirth. Men, too, may have children with women outside their marriage. But these relationships are not secret. They are acknowledged, spoken about, and often accepted, if done with respect. This openness is not carelessness. It is a cultural understanding that life is complicated, that bonds must be flexible to survive in a changing world, and that honesty and communication matter more than strict obedience. In this model, marriage is not ownership, it is shared stewardship. Each partner walks their path, but they walk it beside one another, eyes forward, steps in rhythm. A Himba marriage does not stand alone. Every union is watched, supported, and sometimes gently corrected by the community. Elders may offer guidance. Siblings may step in to help during sickness or hardship. Uncles may assist in child rearing. Aunties may advise during times of emotional strain. This is not interference, it is protection. If a marriage becomes unbalanced, the larger clan absorbs the pain, offers counsel, or provides shelter. Divorce is not taboo, but before it is considered, many hands try to restore the bond. Not through pressure, but through gentle, collective effort. In this way, love is never isolated. It is surrounded, like a small fire in the middle of a wide desert night, kept alive by everyone in the circle. When outsiders speak of women's rights, they often carry a mirror, reflecting their own systems, expectations, and values. But in the red lands of Himba country, such mirrors blur. Here, women live under open skies. They wake before the sun, choose their partners, raise their children, and shape their world, not through loud declarations, but through presence, rhythm, and grounded knowing. Tonight, we step quietly into the lives of these women, not to redefine them, but to witness how autonomy grows in places untouched by modern frameworks, where strength is worn like ochre, and freedom is measured not in rebellion, but in rootedness. The Himba homestead may be led by a male elder, but the heart of the household often beats in the hands of a woman. She decides when to rise, when to light the fire, when to call the children in from the bush paths. She knows which goats have given birth. She remembers every dream her child mumbled in sleep. She monitors the rains, the health of the milk, the signs in the wind. While her husband may speak with guests, it is the wife who maintains the rhythm of the home. If the guest is fed, it is because she prepared the food. If the hut is clean, it is because her hands shaped it with clay and water, day after day. Her voice is rarely raised, but when she speaks, people listen. Her decisions shape the well-being of all who sleep beneath her roof. Despite arranged marriages and clan involvement, Himba women are not trapped in unions. They can leave. They do leave, when respect fades or when joy runs dry. Before marriage, women may have lovers. After marriage, they may receive or decline the guest their husband offers. Their consent is always essential, never assumed. If a man disrespects his wife, she may return to her maternal home, sometimes permanently. There is no widespread stigma in this. It is simply accepted that sometimes lives must grow in different directions. Even in marriage, Himba women maintain personal space. They often sleep apart from their husbands. Emotional distance is not viewed as a flaw. It is part of maintaining individual wholeness. Romantic freedom is not about chaos. It is about balance, knowing where one ends and the other begins, and honoring that invisible, sacred line. In many cultures, wealth is held and controlled by men. Among the Himba, things are more nuanced. While cattle are often managed by men, ownership can be matrilineal. That is, wealth is passed not from father to son, but through the mother's line. This creates a unique form of female economic influence. A woman may not directly manage every transaction, but her voice counts when a cow is sold, when land is borrowed, or when bride wealth is discussed. Her clan supports her, not as a dependent, but as a stakeholder. She also controls the food, what is stored, what is cooked, what is traded. Milk, a key resource, is often entirely her domain. In this way, Himba women manage an invisible but vital economy, one made not of coins, but of milk, meat, herbs, and memory. Spirituality in Himba life is not reserved for men. Women tend the fire when men are away. They interpret dreams. They sing lullabies that are, in truth, prayers, calling on ancestors to watch over the living. During menstruation, women may sleep outside the main hut, not out of shame, but as a sacred boundary. This time is seen as powerful, not polluting. They gather in small circles to bless new mothers, to soothe grief, to guide girls into womanhood. These rituals are not led from a pulpit, but from presence. Hands that soothe the sick, voices that chant into the dark, eyes that do not look away from pain. Women are often the ones who know which herbs cool fever, which bark draws out poison, which smoke calms restless spirits. Their access to the spiritual world is not formalized, but it is trusted. From the outside, it is easy to view Himba life through the lens of modern feminism. But their story is not one of rebellion, it is one of continuity. Their strength is not loud. Their autonomy is not defined by paperwork or protests. They do not need to borrow terms from the West to validate their choices. They already know what freedom feels like. It's in the quiet permission to leave a marriage. It's in the right to choose a partner. It's in the control over the hearth, the child, the field, the ritual. To be Himba is not to live without struggle, but it is to live with clarity, knowing where one stands, what one carries, and how far one's voice echoes, even when spoken softly. And perhaps, in a world always rushing toward more, there is a deeper lesson in their stillness. That power is not always visible. Sometimes, it is simply understood. Among the Himba, the body is not a blank canvas, it is an archive, a sacred scroll, a living map of belonging. Every day, women and girls wake with the sun and mix the red earth with butterfat, applying it with care. This ochre paste, ochre, is not simply adornment. It is language. It is protection. It is memory. Tonight, we explore this deep ritual of skin and scent, a daily act repeated across centuries, across mother to daughter, across land to lineage. The ritual begins with stone and dust. Early each morning, a Himba woman crushes hematite rock, rich in iron, warm in color, into a fine powder. She mixes it with animal fat, carefully warmed over coals. Some families may add the resin of the omuzumba shrub, infusing the paste with a soft, earthy fragrance that clings long after the sun sets. The mixing is slow, rhythmic, almost meditative. She scoops a portion into her hands and smooths it across her limbs, beginning with the arms, then legs, neck, chest, and finally her face. The red deepens as it dries, glowing softly under the rising sun. To outsiders, it may seem like decoration, but for the Himba, it is a shield against the harsh Namibian sun, against insect bites, against dryness. Even more, it is a way of saying, I am part of this land. This land is part of me. A Himba woman's red skin is more than protection. It is identity. Ojize marks her as part of the Himba world. It tells others who she is, how she was raised, and where she belongs. Babies are gently coated from a young age. By adolescence, the red ochre becomes part of their daily rhythm. In this way, girls learn not only to apply it, but to honor it. When a woman walks to the stream, gathers firewood, or stands beside the fire with her sisters, the red glow of her skin carries memory, kinship, and dignity. She doesn't have to speak to be understood. Even in grief, the ochre remains, softened perhaps, or left a little lighter, but still there, still holding space for her story. Ojize also serves as a barrier against erosion, not just of skin, but of tradition. In a world where modernity pushes at the edges, it is a line drawn in earth, saying, we are still here. Bathing with water is rare in the desert, But the Himba have a ritual far more intricate, far more intimate: smoke cleansing. A small pile of burning aromatic herbs, usually omuzumba or commiphora, is placed in a clay basin. The woman crouches over the smoke, letting it drift beneath her skirt, between her braids, across her skin. It dries sweat, perfumes the body, and leaves behind a warm, herbal aroma. Ojis itself carries a subtle, resinous scent. Combined with smoke, it creates a fragrance that lingers on blankets, necklaces, and even in the memory of children. This scent is passed down across generations. A woman may recognize her mother's presence in a cloak or necklace, years after she is gone. Where there are no written records, scent becomes history. Where there are no mirrors, it becomes identity. And where there is no rush, it becomes ritual. A moment of stillness in a world always moving. Hair in Himba culture is a story in strands. Girls begin braiding young, often wearing 2 forward-pointing plaits if they are not yet of age. As they grow, the styles change, reflecting their age, marital status, or even the number of children they have. Each braid is coated in red ochre paste, shaped slowly by hand. Older sisters or mothers perform the braiding while seated in circles, sometimes singing softly as they work. It is a time of bonding, of quiet storytelling. The hairstyle a woman wears isn't simply a choice, it's a message. It says, I am married. I am a mother. I am still learning. The process takes hours, sometimes days. And yet, there is no rush. It is not about fashion. It is about continuity. Every twist of hair is a thread pulled from history, wound into the present, and passed forward again. Every day, a Himba woman wakes and remakes herself, but not to impress, not to hide, to honor her body and what it holds. In Himba culture, the body is not separate from the sacred. There is no line between the physical and the spiritual. Each layer of ochre is a prayer, each smoke bath a song, each braid a manuscript. She does not dress for others. She dresses in the memory of her ancestors. She dresses in the color of her soil. She dresses in the rhythm of her life. And though the world outside grows noisier, faster, brighter, she remains a quiet brushstroke in the wide desert landscape. Still, glowing, present, a living canvas, speaking without words. In Himba belief, the line between the living and the ancestors is not a wall. It is a thread, warm, glowing, unbroken. That thread is kept alive through the sacred fire, known as okuruwo. This fire is not just symbolic. It is alive, a member of the family, a gate to the unseen, a way of whispering to those who have walked before. Tonight, we join the Himba beside their fire, not to speak, but to listen. In the center of every Himba homestead lies a circular stone enclosure. Within it, a small fire burns, not always high, but always present. This is the okuruwo, the sacred fire that links the living to their ancestors. It is lit by the male head of the household and maintained with reverence. Only certain people may tend it, and always from the east, the ancestral side. This fire is never used to cook. It does not warm the body, it warms the soul. When a child is born, their name is whispered over the fire. When someone dies, their spirit is guided through its smoke. When choices are heavy, the elders sit beside it, not to decide, but to remember. Its flame does not roar, it does not flash. It glows softly, and in that glow, all who gather are made humble. To speak to the ancestors, Himba do not raise their voices. They do not chant loudly or bow dramatically. Instead, they sit quietly near the fire. They close their eyes, rest their hands in their laps, and allow memory to rise like smoke. A father may ask for guidance. A mother may weep without a word. A child may sit still, saying nothing, yet feeling everything. There is no priest, no sacred book. The fire itself is the altar. The air around it becomes sacred through presence alone. Himba believe that the dead are not gone. They are shifted. into another form, still present, still watching, still waiting to be called upon. Every spark carries a message. Every pause becomes prayer. This is not worship of the dead. It is conversation with memory. Himba do not offer gold or coins to their ancestors. They offer what matters most: milk, smoke, and sincerity. Fresh milk is sometimes poured into the fire as a sign of gratitude. Resinous herbs are burned to cleanse the space. Occasionally, a piece of meat is left beside the flame, then buried afterward, not as waste, but as sharing. The idea is not to impress the ancestors. It is to remember them, feed them symbolically, and keep their names from fading. Even a single cup of sour milk poured slowly into the flame is enough. It says, "We have not forgotten. We still walk your path." No offering is made carelessly. Each movement is intentional, measured, and filled with meaning. From the first breath to the last sigh, Okuruwo bears witness. When a child is born, their placenta may be buried near the fire. Their name is spoken aloud to connect them to ancestors. Elders breathe quietly over the newborn, offering a silent blessing drawn from generations past. When someone dies, the fire is the first to be told. Before wailing, before burial, a quiet announcement is made. He has gone. The fire smolders on during mourning. Sometimes it is left unkindled for a short while, to honor absence. Then it is rekindled, signaling that life continues. This cycle of tending, pausing, and returning mirrors the very rhythm of existence. Not linear, not final, but circular, like the coals themselves, burning down, glowing again, never fully extinguished. While Okuruwo is a physical fire, it also lives inside each Himba. It is the inner spark, the sense that one is never walking alone. A woman grinding grain remembers her grandmother's rhythm. A father teaching his son to herd cattle hears his own father's words. Even in solitude, the ancestors are present, not just in memory, but in muscle, instinct, and breath. Some Himba, who leave the village to live in cities, take ashes from the family fire with them. A small pouch, a small reminder, a link. Others return from far places just to sit beside it again, to feel its warmth, to ask a silent question. In a world that often forgets to pause, to look back, to listen, Okuruwo remains. It teaches us that stillness is sacred, that we do not need to shout to be heard, and that sometimes the softest flame is the one that lights the way home. The sun creeps across the sky like a silent drumbeat. A goat bleats in the distance. A gourd swings gently from a mother's hand. And the air hums with the same slow pulse it has carried for centuries. In Himba life, time does not rush forward. It curves, it repeats, it sings. There are no wall clocks, no alarms. But every shadow, every breeze, every footfall across red earth tells its own story of when it is. This chapter explores how the Himba read time through land and body, through goats and gourds, through wind and waiting, and how, in their quiet world, time becomes not a taskmaster, but a companion. The Himba do not wear watches. They do not plan by the hour or chart the day in numbered segments. Instead, they read the world. The position of the sun tells them when to gather wood, when to return the cattle, when to begin preparing the evening meal. The birds too speak. A certain song means the heat will rise soon. Another signals evening wind. Shadows are teachers. Children learn to read them early. A shadow stretching long across the fire pit means it's time to come indoors. A short shadow means rest is still far away. There is no anxiety in this way of telling time, no sense of being late. Instead, there is presence, the gentle awareness of where one stands in the story of the day. In Himba life, there are not 4 crisp seasons. There are 2 great pulses, the dry and the wet. The dry season is long. It stretches from April to October. The land becomes parched. Dust gathers. The cattle are thin. Water is carried over long distances. And the fire burns a little lower each evening as everyone conserves strength. Then comes the wet season, brief but miraculous. Rain does not arrive quietly. It rolls in with deep skies and sudden scent. Children run into it barefoot. Goats shiver. Plants bloom from cracked earth like secrets finally spoken. These seasons do not mark time by month, but by need and plenty. A good rainy season means hope. A dry one means migration, conservation, harder choices. Time in the Himba world is therefore not abstract. It is felt, tasted in the milk, measured in the dust on your skin. And through all of it, the people remain, watching, waiting, adapting. If there are no calendar years in the Himba world, there are life events that act as timekeepers. A baby's first steps, a boy's first herding journey, a girl's first braids turned inward, signifying her coming of age. Time is understood through transformation, not through numbers. A woman knows her daughter is growing when she wakes early to help with firewood. A man knows his son is nearly a man when he speaks softly with the elders, not just his peers. There is no set age for marriage or ceremony. The body, behavior, and the village consensus determine when it is time. Elders mark time in stories. When the rains failed 3 times in a row, when your uncle still walked to the border for trade. Memory becomes the calendar, and life itself is the slow turning of a wheel, each milestone a gentle tick forward. Weddings, births, cattle blessings. In Himba life, rituals do not just celebrate events, they create time. There is no fixed date for many ceremonies. They happen when the omens are right, when enough milk has been stored, when the ancestors are believed to be attentive. A ritual might begin with the lighting of the sacred fire, followed by days of music, dance, and feasting. But no one asks, what time does it start? It starts when it begins. Children sense time by the pounding of drums, the preparation of meats, the gathering of distant relatives. Young people learn patience, endurance, and joy not from clocks, but from presence inside ceremony. Time slows during these rituals. It stretches, folds, allows space to remember and be remembered. And when the last ember fades, people say, "It happened during the time of your cousin's wedding," when the moon was wide and full. More than anything, Himba people live with what might be called slow time. There is no rush between tasks. A woman may sit for an hour preparing her ochre paste, unhurried, deliberate. A man may follow the cattle across hills without glancing at the sun. A conversation may unfold across a whole morning, with long silences honored as much as words. This slowness is not laziness. It is presence. It is a different way of measuring worth, not by productivity, but by attention. Time stretches where it is not hunted. And in the Himba world, time is not something to conquer. It is something to inhabit. They remind us that not all value comes from speed, that not all living is in doing, and that sometimes the most sacred clock is the beating of our own breath, in rhythm with the land. The hum of a far-off engine across the plain, the sudden glint of a mobile phone screen in a red-dusted hut, the silence of a fire still burning, unchanged. The modern world edges closer each year. Roads extend, cities spread, signals strengthen. And yet, in the far corners of Namibia, the Himba continue to rise with the sun, apply ochre to skin, and sit in the patient circle of ancestors. Tonight, we explore how modernity brushes against ancient rhythm, sometimes gently, sometimes firmly, and how the Himba, with grace and quiet strength, choose what to keep, what to bend, and what to let pass. The village used to be quiet but for birds and breeze. Now, in many Himba settlements, mobile phones buzz beside gourds. Motorbikes cut through trails once walked slowly. And a few solar panels power a bulb or charge a device. The Himba are not frozen in time. They are aware, curious. Some youth travel to towns for school. Others trade goods and return with radios or SIM cards. A woman may carry water on her head in one hand and a cell phone in the other. But the rhythm remains theirs. Phones are checked only after the goats are milked. Motorbikes rest while the sacred fire glows. Technology is used, but not worshipped. It is a tool, not a master. In nearby cities, modern clothes dominate: jeans, t-shirts, shoes. But in the village, ochre remains. Some Himba youth return from school in pants and sneakers, but when rituals are held, they remove them, wrap themselves in traditional leather skirts, and apply ojis once more. For weddings, for ancestor rites, for daily home life, many still choose the old ways. This is not ignorance, it is a choice. To carry forward what speaks to the soul, not what simply fills the market stalls. And so, tradition and modernity walk together. Not always in harmony, but not in war either. The red ochre is not washed off easily, nor is it meant to be. With modern roads come visitors. Tourists with cameras, bus tours, photo guides. They enter villages to observe, to ask questions, to capture images. For some Himba, this is a source of income, posing for photos, selling jewelry, explaining traditions. But it also raises quiet questions. Who defines culture? Who owns the story? Elders urge younger generations not to perform for the camera, but to live the truth of their culture. Some resist tourism entirely. Others negotiate, deciding when to allow pictures, when to retreat. The sacred is never displayed. The fire is never commercialized. The deepest truths remain private, a quiet rebellion against being reduced to spectacle. More Himba children attend school now, learning English, mathematics, global history. Some walk hours each day. Others stay in boarding towns and return seasonally. This education opens doors, but it also poses gentle danger: the forgetting of language, of fire, of goat trails and ochre songs. Many elders encourage balance. Learn the books, but do not lose the land. Remember your name in both languages. A girl may now write her name on a chalkboard and later help her mother prepare herbs for ritual. A boy may recite science facts, then lead cattle with the same whistle his grandfather taught him. The best of both worlds is possible, but fragile. It requires attention, not just ambition. What does it mean to be Himba in 2025? It means different things for different people. For the elder, it is the fire still glowing each morning. For the teenager, it is the ochre jar beside her smartphone. For the toddler, it is the lullaby sung in Herero tongue. Some have left, some have stayed. Some drift between, finding a rhythm that suits their walk. But through it all, there remains one truth. The Himba are not vanishing. They are deciding, with quiet strength, not to disappear, but to continue, on their terms. In a world of noise, they still hear the goats at dawn. In a world of rush, they still walk barefoot across slow earth. In a world of forgetting, they still whisper their names to the sacred fire. And that, perhaps, is the most modern choice of all.